Okay guys, so today I'm going to be telling y'all about the difference between a floating worm and a floating worm. Now I know this can be confusing because it confused me, and it confused me real bad. Now around here a lot of people catch fish on a floating worm. What they mean is this weightless trick worm like wacky rig, just a weightless trick worm. It really doesn't float. Now these two worms right here, they may look the same, but they're totally different, and both can be called floating worms. We'll start off with the one that most people call a floating worm. Now this here is just your standard zoom trick worm. It doesn't really float, but what they're talking about is just wacky rigging it and letting it float down super slow to where it almost seems as if it's floating. But when I heard them say floating worm, I thought they meant a legit floating worm like this one. Now this one here is made out of a durable styrofoam based material, and it legit floats. And if for some reason it goes underwater or maybe a fish pulls it down, it's going to float right back up to the top and stay there. So this here is a true floating worm. Now they're both very similar and can be fished on the same exact, and I mean same exact tackle. Now today I'm going to be fishing them both, and I'm going to use the same rod, same reel, same line, same hook. And you know what, I'll probably just use the same knot. Not even gonna retie. This setup in particular, this is my drop shot rod. Basically just my lighter action spinning rod. And you know, a spinning reel. Because both these techniques are super light, and you're really gonna need a spinning reel to cast them. And I've just got straight 12-pound braid. I'm in a little bit dirtier water, so I didn't tie a leader. If you're in clear water, you definitely wanna go with the leader. But the little hook here, that is a super small owner hook. It's a mosquito hook. Don't know the exact size, but one thing I've learned about little hooks is they do hook fish good, but you do need to let them eat it, because it can skin hook them right here if you don't give them time to, you know, get it back in here. But yeah, I'm going to fish both of them today, and I'm going to tell you how to fish them once I get the GoPro on and start fishing. Okay, so the first one I'm going to be fishing is just the weightless trick worm. If you ever hear me talking about a weightless trick worm, I'm talking about this, and if I ever say floating worm, that means I'm going straight up a worm that's floating. But anyways, how do I use this? I just take my little mosquito hook, rig it right in the middle, wacky rig just like that. Now let me go show you how to fish it. The first thing, you're going to want to fish this fairly shallow just because it sinks super slow. But yeah, then you just want to cast it in somewhere, particularly if you can beside a target, not necessarily inside cover, because this is an exposed hook, and if you flip it in a lay down, probably gonna get hung up, and your line's so light you're gonna have to break it off. So I like to throw outside of a brush pile, outside of a dock, and make those bass come out of the cover to hit your wacky worm. And about 75% of your bites are gonna come on the initial fall, so keep an eye on your line and keep it semi-slack. That way you don't lose control with it. Now once you think it's got out of the strike zone or hit the bottom, you're just gonna reel up your slack a little bit, pop it up a few times, pop it up about 3 times, then let it sink again, because that's where most of your bites are going to come on the fall anyways. Then once you think it hits the bottom again, do the same thing, and you know, you can do that. Oh, had one right there. Now I was going to say fish it till you're out of the strike zone, which may be away from the dock or something, but you know what, in ponds it's just a really good idea to just fish it all the way back to the bank, since the bass in a pond can literally be anywhere and come from anywhere. So just got bit 2-3 times right here. I've not gave him enough time to eat it. Just going to try to give him enough time this time. Now right here, I'm looking at all this. I see that good stump over there, that good base of the tree. Just going to try to skip it. Just like that. It didn't hit exactly where I wanted to, but hey, that's close enough. That's a good spot. And I'm just going to watch the end of my line for it to take off, jump, or start taking off in the wrong direction. And there he is, just like that. Let's see. I don't think he's a monster, but he is a bass that ate my wacky worm. Sure is. Let's get him up here real quick. And bang. Just like that. Gave him enough time to eat it. Spit my worm. One thing, if you're fishing wacky worms, you better have a full pack of worms, because they're not going to be afraid to spit them out. Right there, top of the mouth, perfect hook set. Just going to get that out. Just like that. There's the power of a little weightless wacky worm. There you go. Now let's move on to a floating worm. Now I'm going to move on to a real floating worm that sits there and floats. And these are actually fairly hard to find. I've looked in a lot of places. Seems like the only place I could really find them was these little Bass Pro Shops. And I mean, yeah, they'll be labeled floating worm. So But anyways, there is one thing you might want to know about this. Even though it is a topwater bait, you're not going to get those massive, crazy topwater strikes like a great white shark comes out for a seal. It's not going to work like that. You will get some of the least aggressive, softest topwater bites you will have ever seen. And to be honest, I've had some on this worm that I didn't even see at all. I just felt them taking off. Now you can rig this wacky rigged, but I found I like to do it a little bit different. Now I'm still using the same hook, same knot, same everything. What I'm going to do is thread it in, thread your hook straight down the nose of the bait, and don't stop. Keep on going. Just keep on going. It's going to come over the shank of the hook, over the eyelet. That's okay. Then about just for the egg sac, just like that. And what I found that does is, you know, it's going to twitch. It's going to twitch just like a walking the dog bait. But every now and again, it's going to dive down. It's going to dive down like an inch down in the water. And then it's going to pop right back up. And a lot of times, if you got one following it that's not necessarily committing to the top water, once it breaks down in the water, goes underwater for a second, he's going to snap and he's going to hit it just because it done something he didn't think it was going to do. Now, to fish this bait as effective as possible, you want as calm as water as possible. And I mean slick calm in a pond, late in the evening or early in the morning. It's probably your best bet for this bait. And I got a visitor. What do you say? He don't want to talk today. Anyways, let's go catch a fish on this sucker. Now, I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's a dock like right over there somewhere. But I'm going to throw right over there to it and just let it sit. Sit there for a minute. Then I'm going to give it some twitches, some crazy pops, and it's going to dive down and come right back up. And those bass will come out from under that dock and come out and just smash that thing. Now, right down this bank right here, it's good glass water. I'm just going to throw it right down that bank. Got it hung in a tree, of course, because you know my name's Kendall Gray. Just going to throw it right down there that bank, let it sit there for a minute, and after those ripples get away from it, then I'm just going to start twitching it all the way back to the bank with a few short pauses in between. Just like this. Just twitch, twitch. Pause it for about a few seconds. Twitch, 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 twitch. Then let it pause for a few seconds. Then twitch, 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 twitch. And then let it pause for a few seconds. And it's not so much about how hard you jerk it, but it's more about the slack that you give back to it after each time that really makes it walk and twitch. And, oh, had him right there. Had him. See, maybe he'll come back for it. I just threw it out there, let it sit for a minute, twitched it a few times where it did go underwater. Then as soon as it come back up and reached the top of the water, it just came up and nipped at it. But I mean, he didn't get the hook that time. I should be able to throw right back in there and get him again. Oh, dang it, he had it again. This time, he hit it whenever it was actually moving fairly fast and underwater. So actually, even though he did bite this worm, maybe a wacky worm may be a better choice because it is subsurface. And that's the only time that he's really keyed in on this bait whenever it's went underwater, so. The main reason of this video was to show y'all the difference between a floating worm and a weightless trick worm. But I'm not done fishing just yet. We're going to throw the real floating worm away, and then we're going to focus on this thing. But we're actually going to rig it a little bit different than wacky rig. And that way is on a weightless Texas rig. Now usually whenever I switch to a weightless Texas rig, I'm going to up my line a little bit, up my rod power a little bit to, you know, still a spinning rod, very seldomly a bait caster. But, you know, I'd like to go with maybe about 20 pound braid, or maybe just straight mono or something like that. But you basically rig it just like that. Now what that allows you to do that a regular wacky worm wouldn't is throw it into cover a little bit tighter in the docks, stuff like that. So with this, if you're looking at a laydown and there's a bunch of fish in it, but you really don't want to throw your wacky worm in there and get hung up, you can put this Texas rigged worm on there, have the same effect as the wacky worm, but you're not going to get hung up. But anyways, I'm going to get out there and sling this around a little bit. And boy, is it getting windy. It's about to storm, I'll tell you that. Maybe we can get one before it does. Just like this one. Just like that. Came in this same exact spot with that floating worm. Got bit on it, but he wouldn't come back for it. Came in here first cast, and he bit the subsurfaced weightless worm. And when you're fishing it like this, it is truly about as close as you can get to a fluke besides a fluke. So whenever a fluke's working, maybe you run out of flukes. This right here is a perfect alternative. We got a fish, and he's right there, and I'm gonna catch him right now. Here we go. Flip into where he was, let it sit for a second, give him time to eat it. He's got it, and there he is, boys. What'd I tell you? What'd I tell you? Just had to give him about half a second longer to eat it this time. Hooked him right there in the roof of the mouth. Perfect. Oh man, I don't know if you can even see that or not, but it's down in his gullet. Oh man, he had that whole worm down in his gullet. It's crazy. Small fish, big appetite. There it is. Oh dang it. Of course they would spit it right there. Well guys, there wasn't a ton of fish catches, and they wasn't giants either, but hopefully you learned something about either weightless trick worms or floating worms, something like that. Hopefully you got something out of this video. But anyways, you know what? I'm doing daily now. Come back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Oh yeah. Got it hung in a tree, of course, because you know my name's Kendall Gray.